I got my hands on some Code 3 Spex-Lites, and today I want to test to see if it does better when it's wet than traditional heavy fill. One of the benefits that Spex-Lite says is when Code 3 gets wet, it maintains more malleability than traditional heavy fill. We all know when you shoot heavy fill in the rain and it gets wet, it can turn into a rock, making it very difficult to shoot off of. So let's see if the claims are true. Before I get started, I just want to have a quick close-up here of the different fills. So in front of me is heavy fill. What you can see is it's a very fine granule that doesn't really clump together. And what's known about this is, as I mentioned, when it gets wet, it kind of locks up. The theory is water has nowhere to go, and since it's such a fine granule, it just turns into a rock. This is Code 3. The best way I could describe it is like a fluffy sand. You can see it has a bit of texture, and if you look really closely, there looks to be like little plastic aggregate bits in there, but they're very fine. So it's not only fluffy, it's also much lighter than heavy fill. To give you an example, this medium right here is heavy fill, and that weighs about 9.8 pounds. This plus one has Code 3 in it, and it's a full pound lighter at 8.8 pounds. So as I noted, I have the Code 3 here in the plus one and heavy fill in the medium. So as we described in the video earlier, the Code 3 has a bit of a fluffy sand texture, and you can see it in the bag. It's almost halfway between like a plaster and sand. It just doesn't push back quite as hard as heavy fill. As you can see, it's more malleable and kind of hold its shape. Whereas heavy fill flows really well. You can kind of see it, it's just kind of doesn't hold its form quite as well because it's like a very fine sand crystal. So as I mentioned before, the heavy fill, it's more like a fine sand crystal. So when you put a gun on it, it really locks up well. Whereas the heavy fill is kind of like fluffy, so it has a bit of plasticity to it in the beginning, and you put it down, it seems to set right nice, but I find you have to settle the gun a lot more into it to get the same amount of lockup. Without a question, for me, heavy fill has better lockup, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing. It just feels different. Okay, so as I mentioned, plus one here with the Code 3 and the medium with heavy fill. Let's just see how they feel. They're both dry still. So as I mentioned, it has like a softer feel, and once you settle it in, it can become rock solid. I'm not firing, just dry fire. There's a little like more wobble, very slight though. When I go into the heavy fill, it just locks up faster, and it looks marginally stable, more stable. It could be I just shoot off it much more often, but no, there's definitely more lockup, better lockup. Strangely enough, I did some practice and I shot groups off both. I'm not going to be shooting groups today, but when I shot groups, I did have a slightly better group with the Code 3, but that could also be because it's a larger bag. So I am going shooting later today, and I don't want to get my heavy fill dry because it takes forever to dry. So I'm just going to do the Code 3 today. We are going to get it progressively more and more wet. We'll start with a light dousing here. I know this seems like a lot of water, but there is a wax coating on this bag, so I need to make sure that it has, some opportunity to soak in the water. we'll let this soak in, and we'll see how it does in a bit. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. The outside's actually dried quite a bit. It does feel wet to the touch though. Don't worry, we're not done yet. Initial observations, yeah, it still feels like it was. So I'm really impressed with this. Let's try shooting off of it, dry firing rather. Yeah, I mean, feels good, not gonna lie. So far, it's living up to the claim. All right. For those of you who are not convinced, we are going to make sure that we penetrate this bag with moisture, like a good old BC rain. So I got a bucket of water here, and I'm just gonna dunk it in there for a couple minutes. Oh yeah, let it get in there. Shiatsu massage that. I'm gonna leave that in there for, let's say 5 minutes, and you can see the bubbles. It's getting in there. So we'll see what it looks like in 5 minutes. Okay, I've taken it in and out a few times just to make sure the water completely penetrated. The bubble stopped a while ago. As you can see, it's fully soaked. And yes, immediately you can feel it's more clumped up. But I can tell you, it's a lot more malleable than heavy fill would be. For those of you who shoot in rain, when a heavy fill gets wet, it turns into a rock. This, while it's a lot firmer, still has a lot of malleability and plasticity. So initially I would say, yeah, it's definitely better than heavy fill in the rain. It doesn't feel exactly the same. It definitely takes more force to use. It's kind of weird. It feels more like plaster now. But I'm gonna give this a few minutes to kind of soak out, and I'll try shooting off it, dry firing. Like I said, this is a shooting bag, not a diving bag, so unless you're going swimming with your shooting bag, you'd never get this wet. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. It's definitely soaked in, and it definitely feels a lot harder than it was before. But will it still be shootable? So, yeah, it's definitely more firm. Not quite like the cement heavy fill is, but yeah, I mean, it takes a bit of work. I will definitively say it's better than heavy fill is. It's not perfect, but you could shoot off of it. It's probably been another 2-3 minutes. It's actually getting more firm. It's kind of setting. But, like I said, I've shot with heavy fill quite a bit, and but I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's impervious to getting wet, but I'm going to tell you it's better. So how's that feel? Oh yeah, it's still really solid. You can see it's kind of still needs a lot more work than it did in the beginning. But it's still good. So conclusion, it's not impervious as I mentioned, but it's better than heavy fill, And I think this bag actually makes it worse because it's so wax filled, the water just can't leave. So all in all, I say if you are looking for a good lighter alternative to heavy fill that has a little less lockup but is much more resistant to wet weather, Code 3 is great. So here's some bonus footage. I need to dry out my bag, so I figure the best way is to just, you can see it's flowing out quite nicely. And if you come up close here, you can't really tell the difference. This is the dry stuff, this is the wet stuff. It almost feels the same. So I'm assuming because it's fluffier, the water just has more places to go, so it doesn't lock up quite as bad. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend going swimming with this, but in rain, yeah, it'll hold up better.